Signal Over Noise, Episode 2. Is multitasking a myth, and should we stop believing in it? Hello and welcome back to another episode of Signal Over Noise, the short, sharp podcast that's razor-focused on helping you get important stuff done in a distracted world. Expect to learn where the term multitasking actually comes from, what limitations us humans come up against when we try to do it, and finally, 4 strategies designed to help you minimize task-switching delays and errors to help you better expedite progress towards your goals. First, where does multitasking even come from? The word first surfaced in 1965, with IBM using it to describe the ability of a computer's central processing unit, or CPU, to execute more than one task seemingly simultaneously by rapidly switching between tasks. Interestingly enough, even the progenitors of the term weren't actually describing multiple tasks being undertaken simultaneously by the same machine, just rapid switching. Then, in the 80s and 90s, multitasking was adopted by psychologists and thrust into pop psychology to describe humans engaging in multiple activities at once. Now, the notion seems plausible enough when one task is highly basic, procedural, and repetitive, e.g. walking, whilst the other is more complex, e.g. holding a conversation, but it certainly feels a bit more of a stretch when both tasks undertaken are complex and require conscious effort and attention, e.g. replying to an email conversation whilst also conducting an IRL verbal one. Modern-day cognitive scientists tend to prefer task switching or dual task performance over multitasking because the consensus opinion presently is that the human brain cannot simultaneously process 2 cognitively demanding tasks. Instead, it alternates our finite attention between them. So, what evidence do we have to support this? Firstly, all the way back in 1995, the researchers Rogers and Monsell proved that switching between 2 tasks increased error rates and delayed reaction times compared to focusing on one of those 2 tasks. They termed this the switch cost. It's a very important concept that should help guide how you allocate your precious time. Monsell went on to show that switching between tasks generates measurable delays in outputs in the region of 100 to 300 milliseconds per switch. Now, if we allow ourselves to engage in task switching across the day, the switching cost will compound to something far more significant. If instead we cut down on task switching, we free up our brains to be doing important work rather than just switching between tasks. In 2001, another research group headed by Strayer and Johnson found that our attempts at performing 2 complex tasks, in their case using a cell phone whilst driving, reduced performance across both tasks. They termed this dual task interference. This is obviously important because if we want to do something that matters, that we care about doing well, we can't allow ourselves to be doing something else at the same time, thereby reducing our performance due to this dual task interference gubbins. Lastly, in that same year, a research group headed by Dr. Cowen showed that humans have a limited working memory capable of holding only 4 plus or minus 1 chunks of information at any one time. As complex tasks always demand the processing, synthesis, and integration of more than one chunk of information, we should really refrain from attempting more than one task at the same time, as they likely won't both fit in that working memory part of the brain. All of this is wrapped up nicely with a bow in something called Sweller's cognitive load theory, which basically states that complex tasks contain an inherent intrinsic load equal to the complexity of the task, and we can also apply extraneous or extrinsic load in the forms of task switching and dual task interference on top. The more of this we do, the less of our brain's finite computational power is available for doing the thing well, be it learning a new skill or executing a performance. And finally, now that we know multitasking, at least at a high level of complexity, to be a myth meant to describe powerful computers rather than a descriptor of an observable human phenomenon, how can we better structure our days to achieve important things? Step 1. Recognize that only highly automatic or mindless tasks can be paired with another, more complex one. Walking and chewing gum fit this bill. We can pair necessary but unpleasurable complex tasks with pleasurable simple ones if it helps us get the necessary but unpleasurable one done, e.g. replying to email whilst walking. But we will be distracting ourselves from both, so it may be preferable to reward oneself for replying to email by going out for a more immersive walk without a complex task laid on top when the email's done with. Step 2. Organize your physical space so that you can only see one problem or task at a time. No matter how many ways you split or divide your screen, you're only looking at and paying attention to one of the problems. Do something well, close it down, move along, and repeat. If needed, you could even write out some redirect cue cards to steer you back to the task and lay them out to your left and right should your attention wander. perhaps containing only arrows. Step 3, list your important tasks for the day, rank them in order of priority, and if number 1's not done yet, then you're not ready for number 2. Step 4, set aside a sizable chunk of time in which you'll attend to all the time-sensitive but unimportant tasks you need to do. If worrying over these tasks adds significantly to your cognitive load, then plan it early in your day. Otherwise, it can wait until the important stuff's done. By chunking these little itty-bitty things together, you remove the urge to pull yourself out of the flow of doing something bigger and more important to check your phone. So that's that. And here are 3 more freebies that don't pertain specifically to task switching, but should help foster effective, productive habits. 1. Reward yourself for the good stuff. Everyone loves Duolingo, but nobody's yet learned a language. Why? We like games. So consider gamifying your focused work by recording your streak, celebrating milestones, and giving yourself small rewards. This way, you align your short-term reward system to your long-term vision, allowing you to make progress on both simultaneously. 2. Before you step in the arena, visualize your goal. Hopefully this will motivate you to stay on track. If the goal seems too distant, remote, or overwhelming, you can instead visualize what it would look like to have made some unequivocal progress towards that long-term goal by setting up a series of goalposts all aligned in your mind. 3. Set realistic timeframes and train your way up to longer, focused sessions. Stack W's, not L's, to foster behavioral change. If 5 minutes of focused work without task switching is hard for you, then it's well worth celebrating when you achieve it. Then push it a little longer and climb the mountain one step at a time. And that's a wrap for episode 2 of Signal Over Noise. If you have been, thank you for listening. I hope I covered off on something useful. Sorry to do that douchey thing of name-dropping researchers, neither of us know. I was simply trying to be expedient in getting across that these findings discussed are taken from published, peer-reviewed scientific experiments and are likely, therefore, to be well worthy of our consideration and time. Until next time, be well and do good.